My guest today is he actually is an artist for Marvel Comics, the biggest publisher in the world. He's had interior art for Hawkeye, the Kate Bishop version, Reptile, and many other titles. He also did the Blade Runner comic book for Titan. He did the interiors for that as well. He's from Mexico City. It was a great conversation in our interview today, as you'll hear. It was really a joy to have him on the show. We've actually been plotting this for quite some time. Without further ado, hope you enjoy this awesome episode with artist ENID BALAM. Let's take it back to the beginning and go like, how did you get into art and to drawing?
First of all, thank you for inviting me and for taking the time. I appreciate it deeply. Well, I studied visual arts and I did a bachelor's on visual arts, and then I finished a master's degree in editorial with an editorial profile. I was thinking about how books are made, which are the processes involved into editorial design and lettering and image. But I was also working on my comic book skills on the side, just since the beginning. I mean, I was like, as a lot of artists, I was like 6 years old and telling my mom, I'm gonna do Ninja Turtles one day, and I'm gonna create characters and monsters. And she was like, yeah, yeah, I believe in you, whatever you want. So it was an early thing. I often get to know people that are looking for what they are good for, or what's their path in
Yeah.
life. But on my end, at least, I've always known. So pretty much, I've been a
Yeah.
headache for my parents because they were teachers, mid school teachers. So here in my country, in Mexico, uh, teachers can inherit their hours, their working hours, to their kids as some kind of pension thing. But I
Mhm.
rejected it. I rejected it, and I lived um, uh, not by their standards, but trying to pursue what I was at the end, my destiny.
There's something really big that you said there, and that's that a lot of people they don't know what their passion are, what they truly love to do, and the fact that you knew that early on, it's just like straight shot, like missile on target, boom, So that's amazing, It's the same with me too. I always knew exactly what I wanted to do, but I always hope that with this show there's people who are listening who don't know exactly what they want to do, and sometimes they hear guests like you, or the wide array of guests that I have and am gonna have, and that might inspire them to follow that path, and that might be like, you know what, that's what I want to do, So I feel like you'd be surprised. You might have someone come up to you in convention, and this episode right here is what literally inspired them. So very cool
That'll
to
be
hear.
fantastic. That'll be fantastic.
You're out in Mexico City, Mexico, right?
Indeed. And where are you based, Don?
So I'm actually in Imperial County, Imperial Valley. So I'm right on the border of Mexicali,
All right.
Mexico. So I grew
Yeah.
up, I grew up back and forth in Mexico and the United States. So like a majority of my family growing up lived in Mexico. So I've
How's your Spanish doing?
good. I mean, it was the first language I learned. I partially grew up with like my abuelita and abuelito. So I learned a lot from them. And I spent a lot of time with them. Like a lot of my elementary school years, I would stay at their apartment, and yeah, and then we traveled back and forth to Mexico because anytime we had to go to the doctor or something like that, or family gatherings. I mean, my uncle, he was a doctor over there, and then my
All
aunts and
right.
uncles all lived over there. So crossing from Mexicali to the United States, we'd be stuck on the borderline for like 4 hours, and this was before
Oof.
iPads and all that stuff. So comic books were my form of entertainment. How did you really get into comic books? As a medium.
Same. My dad was working how do you say, well, two works, two jobs at the same time.
Yeah.
So on the weekends, he was a teacher on a language center. So I was to wait for him like 6 up to 8 hours. So he would give me some some coins and send me away to a Zocalo, which is like a center of a city of a small town, and
Yeah.
I would just try to save always all the weekends until I could buy a comic book. So
Yeah.
my first comic book was a some of those ancient flick books, which on one side had the X-Men and on the other one it
Oh
had
yeah.
Alpha
Uh-huh.
Flight. So that was
Yeah.
my first book. And since there, I was like I did relationship or a um, somewhat of a common ground between movies, cartoons, because I was watching
Yeah.
RoboCop and all those
Yeah.
90 crazy mutants and robot films, and with books. So comic book came into a high standard for me as somewhat of an interest. I always looked upon the weirdest characters, the strangest, the sexiest girls. It was a whole universe for me,
Yeah.
but quite interesting. So yeah, it was that the way I got interested into comics. There were no, well, at least I didn't knew any Mexican comics, but North American was the huge deal for me.
Yeah. Yeah. How cool is that that you started with Marvel and you're at Marvel now?
Yeah,
I
I
mean, kind of
know.
go in, can you kind of go into that, like the dream coming true like that, and the journey? I mean, it's remarkable, you know?
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Above all, people always look just at the latest years, so they are always thinking on my career or some artist careers for 5 or 6 years, but 6 years. But actually, it takes longer because you have to develop a lot of skills and technical dominions over how to translate script into the paneling and the storytelling, and it takes a huge amount of time because I know a lot of illustrators who make such amazing pin-up covers or these fantastic single images, and that's
Yeah.
okay, but comic books in essence are a consecutive set of pages that tell a story. So in order to master that takes a lot of years,
Yeah.
and it has some theory. Each editorial has a line, has a tradition, and as in art, it has some masters through history who have always um, laid the cutting edge into what's to come, how to break a panel, what's the newest, what's the thing to come, what's where to look upon. So there has been a lot of history, and you have to get a grasp at least on how does it work. It's not the same to draw Spider-Man than a darker character such as Batman or the Punisher. Each character has a tone.
Yeah, definitely. Every character has a tone. It's that's what makes it so exciting is the vast array of personalities, you know, within the universe itself. I mean, one of which actually we could touch upon because to me it's a very important character, and you got to work on it. And you know, I have a store. I've had MetaHumans Comics for 7 years.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
only core shop here, and when people cross right over from Mexico, this is like the first U.S. shop they see in this direction. I carried, you know, your Reptile series,
All
absolutely
right.
loved it.
Thank
Your
you.
Hawkeye stuff, I supported too. It's very important for me to
Thank you.
support that because,
Thank
to
you.
begin with, you know, I'm not an artist, but I'm a writer in comics,
Mm-hmm.
and you're an artist in comics, and like there really isn't many of us of Mexican descent to begin with, like in the industry as a whole, you know.
Uh-huh.
Um, there's not very many of us, so like I've always wanted to support your work, you know.
Thank you. Most
It's
appreciated.
yeah, we're like of you know like the same road, you know, in many
Mm.
ways. So, but I love that story. How fun was it to get to work on Reptile and get to draw, you know, the human dinosaur boy, which. By the way, I'm still waiting for them to make an action figure of that because how would they not do that? Marvel Legends
May-
probably has a reptile figure on the way somewhere. I can't imagine.
Maybe,
do it, you
Me
know?
too. And actually, I love action figures. I have a bunch
Yeah.
of Black Series and horror toys. So I
Yeah.
was also thinking about it would become cool to maybe make it a band with a huge dinosaur thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
How
I don't
would they
know. I
not
don't
do
know.
that? What?
I
How
don't
would they
know.
not do that? Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna try later on my career to try to jump into toys. So I might ring a bell with Marvel. So maybe if they're interested, I could start designing some characters for Marvel Legends. I don't
Yeah.
know, but it's their business. So maybe I don't know.
Oh, you would do
Hopefully,
fantastic. The box
hopefully,
art, right? The box
yeah,
art that they do. Yeah.
yeah, indeed.
We one of my friends for our shop, he's done two cover exclusives for us is David Nakayama, and he does some of the box art for some of those figures. That might be someone you can
Oh,
I can
I'd
probably connect
rather
with.
I'd rather work on the toy itself. I mean, the sculpting, the 3D
Oh, the toy
sculpting.
itself.
Yeah, I'd love to get the idea of how are they sculpted right now in ZBrush,
Oh, wonderful.
how the color processing. I mean, I color with how is it called? Well, this model paints.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of I like to paint a lot of figures on my limited free time. So
That's
I would
cool, man.
really love to be involved into toys.
That is really cool. I did not know that. That's just another extra talent you have
Yeah,
right there. That is awesome. So like so have you painted like so basically you do customs. You do like custom
yeah,
you done some custom figures?
yeah. Indeed, indeed.
Awesome. Yeah,
And
those hey, you can make the reptile figure then. You can make a
I
custom reptile and then they can kind of base it off of that and get the concepts or ideas. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to get a 3D printer so I could sculpt some things on the iPad and try to print it and paint it. I don't know, it's just an idea, but maybe if it happens, hopefully. I love that. I
Yeah.
love mechas, monsters, so
Yeah.
maybe I'd just fit in right in. But for now, I think they have plans for me into comics. I've seen and noticed that a lot of artists don't want to work on the battlefront, which is interior art. A lot of
Mm.
artists want to move into um, how do you say, like proprietary ideas, exploiting their own designs, their own things, or their own games, maybe card games or role
Yeah.
play games, or cover art. So I've seen it, and a lot of interior art. Um, at least on my thought is not pursuing what was in the late 90s and 80s, which was explosive pages with a lot of work into it. So I don't know. I don't know. It's my sense to it.
Yeah, yeah. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, but interior artists like yourself, you guys don't get enough credit. You guys do. I'm gonna say you guys do the most work out of everybody. It's a lot to do the interior pages, and I think a lot of cover work, will get a lot of praise a lot of times, but it
Yeah.
takes nowhere near as much time as interior work. And I know that firsthand because, I'm a writer, so I've worked with interior artists. So I go back and forth with them and I understand
Mm.
the amount of work that goes into it,
Yeah.
In a writing session, I can get really, really into it. And, if I really don't want to go to sleep, I can maybe knock out the script in like 24 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then when it gets to the interior artists, there'll be sometimes like 2 pages every X amount of days or a day, or if you're really like pushing it. I don't know what the record is with like Jack Kirby or what the crazy stories that we've heard of how many pages he knocks out. But on average, like how much do you get done? How many pages do you get done in a day or 2 days, or what would you say your
For
ratio is?
for Marvel, you have to break the script in 5 or 6 days at
Mm-hmm.
most. Then you'd have corrections and notes, which you
Mm-hmm.
have to fix into or take into action with these adjustments and send back. So this process takes about a week, and then you
Yeah.
have mm, 22 or 25 days.
Yeah.
But the problem is that when you're working on your final pages, you also get corrections and notes. So you
Yeah.
have to make them on the run. So you have
Yeah.
1 month and a week to make an entire book.
Yeah.
So
22
so
pages.
yeah, well, like 1 page a day. That's
Okay.
more or less. But since you'll understand, we ought to have maybe two jobs. So, for example, I was doing Blade Runner, Black Lotus, and at the same time
Yeah.
I was working for Marvel. So I was doing page and a half, or sometimes 2 pages, which can worn you down entirely, and
Yeah.
tire you down, or make you like feel drained at the end of a series.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty much you have to do that standard one daily page. So if it has a battle, or it has ships or planets or great backgrounds, you have to
Yeah.
manage to finish on time or go late to bed.
Yeah, yeah. And you're also jumping back and forth between two worlds. So like you're kind
Yeah.
of in a different headspace in two different places, you know? So whether you're doing the Titan book or the Marvel book, they're two different complete stories, and like you're in a different headspace of building that atmosphere for that world because you are doing the interiors, you know? So,
It
yeah.
is somewhat of a light psychosis, because you're entering one world and then you have to step into another,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
talk to each other whether you want it or not. Maybe you're
Uh-huh.
doing a character and you pull something from the other book that you were doing, and
Yeah.
they pollute one another or enrich. I don't know, but
Yeah.
they tend to talk to each other.
Because even
Yeah.
like as a writer, I have to do rewrites, and the editor, I have my own editor, right, who will have
Okay.
me rewrite some things. So like even at that process, I have to be speedy about it because then I have to get it to the interior artist. But you know, even you, the interior artist, you're also on that schedule because someone has to color it afterwards. You know what I mean? And then like the editor still has to go over it, and then they have to get it to the printing press, and then the printing press has to print it on time, and then it's like it's a. I think when people buy that $4 comic or $5 comic, you know, as I grew older, I learned to appreciate holding that thing and being like, man, the amount of work that went into this one thing. You know, there's all these books on the shelf, but the amount of
Yeah.
work that went into that one is absolutely incredible, and it really makes you appreciate even more versus when we were just kids and we were like, wah, wah, you know what I mean? Like, this is awesome, but like, you don't really think about all the work that goes into it, you know? So,
But there is where the magic resides. It's contained into that effort, because it's not you. It's actually a group of
it is
people
team.
gathering into taking place into a fictional round table. The
Yeah,
writer, the editor,
yeah,
everyone takes a seat, and then it's that jointed effort that becomes so easily put into imagination and new windows into kids and new people. So it's actually a privilege. I was telling a friend during this New Year Comic Con convention, which was
yeah.
my first to attend,
Hmm.
that if I could go back to my first comment, there are lots and lots of masters out there. So we better give ourselves uh, the task, and stand up to the challenge and give our best. So it's our time. So we have to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's why we are here. And if we can
yeah.
step into the weird zone in some storytelling from India, what you are doing, it's what 15 generations before you dreamt of.
Hmm.
So when you want to do something, try to put the best of you, because maybe it's something someone before you dreamt to do. I don't know. It's a lovely idea to think upon, right?
Yeah, it's magical actually. Um, so yeah, that's true. You just got back from New York Comic Con. How was the experience? You know, the big show. You know,
A dream
in the
come
Big
true.
Apple.
Yeah, a dream come true. I'm actually a farm boy. I was raised in a very rural area,
Hmm.
among cows and sheep and
Hmm.
horses. So it was and it was a mind bending experience for me. I got to took my wife into Broadway for a play. She's a really Harry Potter head, so
Yeah,
I took her to see a play in regards to that, and she
nice.
was crying at the end. So it was a fulfilling experience. I got to
Yeah.
know some editors which I've worked earlier, but haven't met.
Yeah, yeah,
in person.
uh
So it was a dream come true for me, you know.
yeah,
Just
yeah. And the Javits Center is massive, huh? That building.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of people. Actually, Mexican conventions are as big as the Artist Alley in New York. So
Yeah.
imagine that comparison.
Yeah, yeah, that's wild, right? Yeah, I've never been to New York Comic Con, but I've been to Toy Fair, which is in the exact same place. And Toy Fair is like the big toy show, convention.
Wow.
So it's in the same place as New York Comic Con. So I've been to Javits Center for that, but I haven't
Mhm.
been to New York Comic Con, but I've been to San Diego Comic Con, obviously for like well over 10 years, which is it's the other big show, it's the West Coast big show. So,
Did you
um,
go on the hunt for something special?
at San Diego Comic Con when I went.
No, I meant the Toy Fest.
So at the Toy Fair is basically like for like the retailers. So
Oh.
since I own the comic store, we
Mhm.
basically go in there and they show you previews of like all the product that they have, so you can like place orders. You get the sneak peeks at the lines that are coming out. So
Wow.
and so that was a cool experience. And get to talk to the owners of a lot of the businesses. You get to meet a lot of the sculptors and stuff. So I would imagine if you're probably gonna end up at Toy Fair someday if you do the toy sculpting stuff. So
I bet.
yeah, it usually takes place at the same place where they did New York Comic Con.
And how has it been since the pandemic? Does sales went down, or was it a difficult period for you guys?
You know what? It could have been because we were not considered an essential business. So they shut us down like they shut down a lot of the other independent stores. But
All right.
we adopted we adopted like the online sales marketing stuff, and we always had an eBay store, and then we
Mm-hmm.
started doing Instagram live auctions, and then when Whatnot came on, we were one of the first comic stores on there. We were like
Wow.
literally ground zero, so we gave that a shot, and that worked out well. So like yeah, I mean I just always as a like a modern day business owner, you just have to be, and you know this too, because even as an artist, you have to be this also, but you got to adopt new methods of sales and payment and marketing and advertising and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a lot different in today's market if you want to stay open and alive and relevant. Like if we just relied solely on in-store sales, it wouldn't be enough. So we have to adopt all the other avenues. It's just a part of running the business.
So
Yeah.
you do pre-sales and upcoming figures and
Oh yeah,
comics?
definitely pre-orders. We'll have pre-orders for like NECA, Super 7, um, you
That's
know,
fantastic.
yeah, a lot of those brands and stuff. We do have Hasbro and Mattel stuff, but I don't carry heavy on those as much because you can buy a lot of those at like a Target or a Walmart or something still. So I don't
Hmm.
need to order as many of those because there's direct competition with bigger box stores. So I try to carry a lot of the rarer things. And of
Isn't
course the
it
comics you can't find anywhere else. Yeah.
isn't it the dream in itself as well?
I mean, I've always wanted to have a store. Before I opened the store, one didn't even exist here.
All right.
So it was like we need to have something. So I thought it'd be so cool to do, and it's just like you only live once, and just like you knew you're gonna be an artist. It's like, well, I'm not gonna not do this.
Yeah.
So it's like this is what it is, and that's when a lot of people think like, oh, the success didn't come, so I'm gonna stop or quit or whatever. But the truth is, and you know this very well, it's like you're gonna make it work no matter what because it's what you love to do. And even if it doesn't work right away, it doesn't really matter because you love to do it. So eventually it'll work itself out to some extent. And for some people, it may not be a full-time thing, but even if it's just a side thing and it makes them extra money, guess what? They're loving doing it. You know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
they really do have a passion in there. So I really feel that's important for people to, even if it's not their main gig, because not everybody can make it their main gig, but to at least do the thing they love to do somehow, and never stop.
And I
It almost
think
feels like a goal.
and I think if I may interrupt you, that what seems to be formal and established, maybe it's not. Maybe it can disappear in a day or so. So a lot of people think that jobs, steady jobs or office jobs are forever, but life is happening on a side, so you don't know what's gonna happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, let's pursue what we love.
Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, good point there. Like when people thought they had a lot of the stable jobs, look what happened when the pandemic hit. That really
Yeah,
changed
yeah,
everything. Like
yeah,
that in a heartbeat, you know?
yeah.
So it really put a lot of things into perspective and a lot of things in perspective for some people. So you just never know what to expect.
Uh-huh.
What do you have going on right now? What's the big new project?
I'm doing, I don't know if I can tell you that. I'm doing
Well,
some,
whatever you could say, you know.
yes,
What do you have out right now that you'd like to like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
You could promote it.
some things with some dudes that are a mutants.
Nice. There we go.
Yeah,
There's 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 the hint. Beautiful.
yeah,
Mutants
yeah,
are always cool. So yeah. So I know we're both mutant X-Men fans and Marvel
yeah.
in general, you know. So um, very
I'm,
very cool.
I'm, I'm, I'm so easy. My wife and I, we are so easy that we enjoy even super slow and dumb movies, you know. So whatever comes into hand, I'm super happy.
Yeah.
Once I was asked by Marvel, they gave me the privilege of asking me what I was to draw. They asked me what I'd like to draw.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
a lot of my friends were telling me, even my agent were telling me, Spider-Man, Spider-Man, you better go with Spidey, or everyone was
Yeah.
saying that. And you know what I responded on the mail that whichever character they chose for me or they put on my drawing board, I would be mostly honored and thankful for it. So yeah, let's give it a go. Each one has a lot to offer and a lot to unravel, right?
Yeah. Fantastic. You know that's yeah, it's so funny because Spider-Man's the obvious answer, right? Everyone's going to say Spider-Man. Spider-Man is Marvel's or you know
Big
like
boy.
DC has Batman and Superman, right? But you know and Spider-Man is the thing, you know, for Marvel. You know,
Yeah,
so do you have any artist heroes growing up, you know? Did
a
you look up
lot.
to anyone?
Yeah, a lot, a lot.
Yeah.
But I respect mostly Moebius, John Giro, which is half Mexican.
Uh-huh.
There is some. I've always suspected, stepping into the October bite, that he is. He what he did was remote viewing those places that he drew.
Yeah.
That perhaps in a faraway planet there is something like his celestial Venice or his magical and mystical desert with those fantastical psychedelic
Yeah.
creatures. So yeah, it's something that has opened my mind into not thinking that this is a technical thing, but
Yeah.
above all, it's something spiritual. It's something that
Yeah.
you. Let's take a look into a monk. What he does is that
Mhm.
he encloses himself in a space and is always thinking into the divine. So if we aspire to do something really good, we have to spend here more than 12 hours a day working. And those ideas that we generate, you as a writer, me as an artist, I don't think they are easy things. I think they come from a very special place, which maybe is non-local, and
Mhm.
is something mysterious because
Yeah.
I don't know where they come from. I've
Yeah.
drawn tons of pages, and each time I get surprised because I don't know where the characters come.
Yeah.
My mind is quite small to develop a spaceship or a costume. I don't know where it comes, and it surprises me every time. So I live in wonder of what I'm doing all the time because my wife think, for example, that I'm super sure what I'm doing,
Uh-huh.
but I'm not.
Uh-huh.
Each page is a
Yeah.
mystery. I don't know what I know the layout and how the technical stuff, but the essence, I really don't know where it comes from. So Moebius, and I've worked for Europe before, earlier in my career.
Mhm.
So there's Matteo Lofrey, bunch of Italian guys
Mhm.
in North America. I have also a lot of main artists that I love. But what I think excites me the most is that space, that narrow space between European and North American comics. That lingering space in between is what I love. When I detect that, for example, something contemporary, Mahmoud Asrar, which is a Turkish artist, I believe.
Yeah.
His work
Uh-huh.
on Conan, and his Conan is quite special.
Yeah.
It's not all related into American comics, but it has a classical tone to the scenarios and the horses and how he presents the story. It has the dynamics of North American comics. He throws a sword, and you look how it moves forward in the air, and then attacks the other guy, and the splatter of the blood. It has that,
Yeah.
but also has those contemplative moments from Euro comics. So yeah, that mixture and going
Yeah.
backward and forward in the tech, the construction, the building of the panels and the character. That's what I love the most. And
That
you,
is
what's
awesome.
your preferred comics?
Well, the thing about comics for me that I adore is that because I also am like a filmmaker. Like I've made a lot of independent little films and stuff. And so, in Hollywood and all the movies that we watch, there's all these big budget movies and things, and they're constrained by budgets or what they can make. But the thing that always appealed with me with comic books and writing is that you can make that $1 billion film, right? And you can put it into these pages, and you're not constrained to a budget. Someone like you
Hmm.
can make those marvelous things and create them on page, and you can take us to space, or you can take us to the middle of the earth, or you can take us to another dimension. And
Hmm.
so writing, to me, I absolutely adore the fact that we can do anything with it. You know what I mean? It's like you can just create a story. Yes, you can just create a story. You can go wherever you want to go. You can make the characters and the creatures that you want to make. And that, ever since I was really young as a kid, playing with my Ninja Turtle action figures and my other toys or stuff, building these worlds. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You're creating your own stories. A lot of people don't realize it, but it's like I was already writing back then, even when I was
Hmm.
doing that storytelling.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
so I just never lost that. A lot of people sometimes grow up and they lose that little essence. And like I just didn't lose that essence. I kind of always kept it fresh. It's like if you're always exercising a little bit, if you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing. And
Yeah,
so I was
yeah.
always kind of exercising at, and writing little stories, even if I wasn't going to use them for anything. I was just, even little poems or things. Like I used to read these books, like Where the Sidewalk Ends, and it was this by Shel Silverstein. And there were these black and white drawings in this book,
Hmm.
and they were just short stories. And through my life, I kind of harkened to that, where I would write these little short stories. And I'm not a good artist, but I would do these little doodles with them.
Would you
And
say
so
again
like,
the name so I can look into
yeah,
the images?
Shel Silverstein,
All right.
SH, yeah, and he has these black and white books like Where the Sidewalk Ends. You'll dig it. It's just like these sketch
Hmm.
drawings with these little short stories, but it's a ton of stories inside of like, um, it's kind of like you're reading like a more mature Dr. Seuss or something, you
All
know?
right. All right. All right.
Yeah, and I always love those because there were these short little contained stories, but like it kind of keeps the magic there through time. And like I was always writing things, and that's just what I adore about it. And now writing comics, it's making the dream come true and having them published. But like, when I look back, it's like I probably should have just been self-publishing things myself, like since forever ago, because I was already writing things. So
Yeah.
that's another thing for anyone listening is like you don't have to wait for someone to pick you up to make something. If you just want to make
No.
something, just make it,
No.
Just
Indeed.
do it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's a necessity.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a craft. It's
Yeah.
a way to understand the world. So yeah, when you're connected to it, it flows easily actually, because
Hmm.
you're not restraining yourself into fitting in what's thought that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I believe editors actually are always looking for it. That spark, that somewhat different, that uniqueness. I think
Hmm.
they know a lot of stories are built by that perception of the world, and it actually sells a lot because engages with people and it seduces the imagination. If you do
Yeah.
something easy to digest, it might pick on 30 or 40 dudes or people. But if you do something that it's maybe into dreams, into nightmares, into something relatable to other people, I bet a lot of people will engage into that story.
It's magic. It's
It's
literal
magic.
magic. It's
It's
just grabbing it
magic.
from the air.
It's
That
magic
that's if
indeed.
anyone asks if magic is real. It is. That's the form of it that it does exist.
It is.
Um.
It's just that we are used to see it as something quite complex,
Uh-huh.
something fabricated, something that has a lot of process. But it's actually quite easy. We're doing it all the time. But as you said it, when we are kids, we are already doing it. But we have to
Yeah.
we have to fit a mold into the world. So we are um, uh, uh, turn down those inner fire, inner light to create things. But the
Yeah.
people who survive that age are wild, are different, are seeing the things that other are not seeing, and that's a special thing of what we do.
We're talking about magic and unseen forces. Since we're in the Halloween season here,
Sure, let's
um,
go there.
yeah, I'd love to hear, especially being from Mexico, we have our own folklore of La Llorona and chupacabras and all these like common things that are like folklore in our like areas and stuff. But like, do you have any ghost stories? Do you have any things that you've actually seen, or if you haven't seen, maybe that you've heard, or any
Yeah,
experiences that you'd like to share?
totally. I'm gonna step out of the UFO closet here,
Uh-huh.
because when I was a kid, I was about 10 years old, 10 or between 10 and 12, and I witnessed on my rural house flying like I'm gonna say meters,
Wow.
1,000 meters, close to the
Uh-huh.
ground,
Uh-huh.
a metallic sphere, perfect sphere,
Yeah.
not a balloon because the clouds were
Yeah.
moving faster,
Hmm.
and this thing was stationary. So it caught
Yeah.
my attention because it was rural, it was mountains, it wasn't anything was out of place. So I called
Yeah.
my mom, and she stepped out of the kitchen, and she saw this thing. As well, she was hanging out with a friend. So, what's the spooky part of this is that when we came to senses, a lot of part of the day had passed, and it was suddenly just as that. It
Yeah.
was afternoon. It was like
Yeah.
5 or 6. But when we saw this thing, it was two or three because
Oh
we
wow.
hadn't had
Yeah.
dinner, and in Mexico we have dinner like 2 or 3 in the afternoon,
Yeah.
in afternoon, I mean. And more creepier is that the friend that was with my mom, she got an aggressive breast cancer,
Oh wow.
and she passed like 2 or 3 years fighting the battle after this encounter. And my mom lost a child. She was pregnant, but she didn't know. So a month or 2 months passed, and she lost the child. But since then, what we had was a ton of what is called, what I've researched into, which is called uh, um, from Skinwalker Ranch, something that passes into people, which are creepy events. Like
Yeah.
we heard voices, we saw,
Phenomena.
yeah, somewhat of a phenomena. And
Yeah.
the strangest thing, it's that it was lived by my family members, not just us. It was
Yeah.
something with a sense of contagion. A lot of people
Okay.
that stayed with us had this kind of phenomena, something like a
Yeah.
virus, if you wanna
Oh wow.
call it
Yeah.
like that. And since then, what's weirder, it's that I've been called like crazy to dig into this phenomenon, study it a lot. So I'm all into it. And
Yeah.
what happens that corroborates my story all these years later is that you're not gonna believe it, but when I receive a script,
Uh-huh.
I always close my eyes and
Uh-huh.
I try to empty my mind, and what I
Yeah.
get is like flashes of images of what the writer maybe portrayed us or saw in the script. Because when I've drawn the stories, some writers have written me back and told me that what I drew was the movie they were thinking on. So
Wow. Yeah.
so that the scene of the movie.
Yeah.
So if it was a western, or
Hmm.
so it affected us on maybe a genetic or cellular level. I do not know, but
Yeah.
it does. To this day, I always do this exercise. I always feel when the script arrives, and I try to do this exercise. And whenever I have doubt,
Yeah.
it doesn't work. So it has to do something spontaneous without
Yeah.
overthinking it. It has to do just like believing in it, if you want to put it
Yeah.
that way. And
Like another sense.
the images
Yeah.
come. It's like super fast flashes of images. I don't know what it is, but it happens. So
Yeah.
that's my story.
It's like you gained the power, my friend, you know?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Saddened,
Wow.
saddened because it has awful consequences to
Mhm.
this lady who passed away. But
Yeah.
since then, I've known, for example, a lot of cases like one in Texas where two females got radiation damage onto their skin.
Yeah.
Cashlandrum,
Yeah.
I think is known. So yeah, I mean it's real. So it is whatever people think it is. I believe is more complex, and it has
Yeah.
more to affect more than nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Maybe something that it's natural in this
Hmm.
world as we are, a type of living entity with intelligence, and that's it. Let's not go
Yeah.
into outer space. Maybe something natural, something weird, but a lot of people have experienced things like us, and I don't know. It's quite strange, right?
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's ridiculous to think that like how infinite the universe is and that other life doesn't exist. It's like unquestionable that like I mean, think about all the radical sea creatures that are on the bottom of our very own Earth's ocean that you can't believe what they look like. And if I'm being honest, they look way creepier or stranger than anything that they say an alien even looks like. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
for them, for anyone to think that other life doesn't exist in other parts of the in the universe that's more advanced, that'd be ridiculous. It's just by sheer math alone, there is something else out there without question, you know. So
Yeah.
I also have always believed there's something else, you know. Have you ever seen that movie, A Fire in the Sky?
Yeah, I know that case. And you know what? A recent book that has caught my attention is
Hmm.
American Cosmic, or Cosmic America,
Okay.
American
Yeah.
Cosmic, from
Yeah.
Dr. Diana Pasulka, which is so provocative in the idea that maybe what people think is angels or mystical,
Yeah.
like Marian appearance,
Uh-huh.
how do you say it?
Yeah. Apparitions. Yeah. Like.
Apparitions
Uh-huh.
or miracles
Uh-huh.
that might perhaps be this type of intelligence engineering
Yeah.
a guidance
Yeah.
into people. So
I've read that before in theory.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite outstanding, because in church they have a lot of events which are
Hmm.
paranormal, and they understand what they are. So maybe, well, this is the most provocative idea, because a lot of people are religious. So
Yeah.
what if it's not God? What if it's a just an intelligent living thing that has no body?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. That would.
put it plainly like that, and it does exist. and it does manifest and engineers this type of images that come into people and relate has relations with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird,
Yeah,
right?
but we probably heard weirder stories, you know what I mean? Like it's they might not. The thing with that is like it would stir up religion because it's something they've been doing for so long, but a
Yeah.
lot of things even in religion don't really make sense either, you know what I mean? So like what is it to question that's completely wrong or this is completely wrong? What if there's bits and pieces from things that are right and different things and no one's accepting and no one's open-minded, you know what I mean? I
Uh-huh.
think we have to keep our minds, open to extent because like they say, even like with stories written, um, it's like the old saying, like you tell someone a story, and then by the time it gets to the hundredth person, the story changed, right? So maybe there's bits and pieces that
Yeah.
are right about different stories, and so I don't know. You just have to. I'm always curious and open to hearing all these different concepts, because
Approaches.
yeah, approaches, yeah, they're very interesting because some of them sound like, hey, that sounds like it could
As
be,
is some with time, things evolve as well. Like science, for
Yeah.
example. In when I was younger, I wasn't able to tell these things because I, I I don't know. I was afraid maybe that people would think I was nuts. But with time, I've learned that reality is experienced by so many different types of thinking that
Yeah.
I believe it's not one thing, but it is what we each make out of it, out of our
Yeah.
senses. So you cannot tell. Yeah, if I tell you this, maybe it'll get into conflict with someone else because they believe in angels. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe if I know another people, they think that it's folk, it's
Hmm.
fairies, it's goblins, and if I know another people, they'll tell it's ghost. But what if these paranormal events are interrelated into some type of a new type of living thing that we don't know what it is? Just like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Also, we always hear the thing about like how come no one like gets really good documentation of them and this and that, but it is kind of true if they're so advanced, wouldn't they be good enough to like not get documented? You know what I mean? Like if they're that like so there's also that argument, you know what I mean? It's like if you make a stealth bomber, the whole thing or stealth plane isn't the whole point that you're not supposed to be able to see it, you know what I mean? So like if you can see it then it's not working,
Yeah.
right? Like there's that whole argument too, it's like you just never know.
But maybe because people are trying to look into the nuts and bolts.
Hmm.
What if the nuts and bolts are not even real? What if it's
Hmm.
something without a body? Just think
Yeah,
of a
that's true.
ghost, the structure of a
Yeah,
ghost, something that you see with the side of your eye, something quick, a shadowy thing, a shimmery thing that
yeah,
passes through the wall.
uh
What if
huh,
you're taking a glimpse into a living thing that you don't
yeah,
know what it is
yeah,
and you categorize and give the significance of a ghost? What if it's not a ghost? What if it was something different?
yeah,
So yeah, we're getting close into taking pictures of them. We have had cell phones for maybe 20 years. So with time, maybe we'll have more evidence. But I think people
yeah,
are looking for nuts and bolts. For example, I've made this experiment with my wife. What if we think into coincidence? What if we think into what if we put ourselves into the game of synchronicities? So
hmm,
we have been taking screen captures of our phones because when we look at what we're looking on the cell phone or the iPad, there's always 1111 or 1313. So we've been
yeah,
taking pictures of those numbers, and eventually it has become into a response in the sense of, for example, we're out in the street and I'm telling her a story about a white dove. Let's put that
yeah,
into example. And then we take a cab and we step into the taxi, and in the radio that has just been turned on, there's a Mexican song about La Paloma Blanca, which is
oh
the
yeah,
white dove.
White
So
dove, yeah.
isn't it exciting? We have had this type of things a lot, and quite
Uh-huh.
compelling, quite personal, quite
Yeah,
like a response. That's
yeah.
it. So maybe it's not nuts and bolts. Maybe something um, more complex, more
Hmm.
intricate, more delicate, more of a thin membrane between consciousness and other aspects, not just the nuts and bolts thing.
What's the word, like food for thought, right? It's like yeah, it's like something to consider. There's so many possibilities, you know.
So what's yours?
Have you ever heard of the Whaley House in San Diego? The
Uh,
Whaley House?
I think I've seen it in shows, in Ghost
They
Hunters and that. Yeah.
Yeah, they call it the most haunted house in America. That's what they call it, right?
All right.
They used to do like the actual executions and stuff like that in the house. They had like the courtroom there. The family had all these
Oof.
incidents. And as a little kid, we used to eat at this restaurant across the street. But I was always into like, the paranormal stuff, even as a little kid. So I crossed the street, and me and my little brother, I had my little brother with me, and like we obviously couldn't pay to go in. The Whaley House were too small. My parents were like, yeah, they're not gonna go in there. We're not gonna go in there.
Yeah.
But like I was so curious that I wanted to walk around the house, and this is before I think they blocked some parts of it. I'm not sure, but back then I remember you used to be actually be able to look through the windows, and like because like you got like a little free tour without actually paying for it.
Uh-huh.
And so we used to look through the windows and stuff, and through the back ends. Ended up in like this. There's like a shack and like. I guess where they have like the little garden, the grass area or whatever. We look through the window and like there's like this rocking chair that's moving and it's not stopping. And so as a kid, you just kind of think like, oh well, they got to have something that's making it move all the time because it's not stopping, right? But it
Yeah.
keeps moving and there's nobody in there, right? And so I don't know if it's real or not, but walking around the house when we get to the back part, um, we did get these. Even my little brother, like we got like these chills, like these weird chills. Like, why do we feel like this all of a sudden? Because it was actually summer, so it didn't make sense. But like we got like these weird kind of goosebumpy chills, and it was nighttime. I couldn't really explain it. Later on, when I started like looking some stuff into it. I had read something, and I know if it's accurate or not because I don't know the sources from back then, but it said something like one of the children had run into a clothesline or something in the back and cut their neck or something, and then that's how they died, or I forget how it was, right? But it was there in the back. It didn't take place in the house. So then I was like, well, was that what the chills were? Maybe was there like a spirit there or something? I didn't see anything. But that little experience, even though I didn't see anything, it was kind of what made me start thinking about those things. And
Yeah.
so back in my hometown, I would look like, what are all the quote unquote haunted house or haunted areas? I want to go to all of them. I want to just experience them, right? And there was a slaughterhouse that was underground where I guess they like slaughtered cows and stuff like that, right? But supposedly people did like there was like pentagrams on the walls on the ground and stuff, so they had some bad juju that was happening there. So I remember going there, didn't really see or hear anything. Like we lit up torches on these like we made our own like t-shirt torches on these like sticks after we were like skateboarding one time. We were down there, and we didn't see or hear anything. We ended up getting like freaked out because there was bats in there that flew out, and so everyone freaked out because of the bats. And we had these like Raiders of the Lost Ark torches lit up, right? So nothing there, no like ghost activity. Then we went to this other place. This it was like they call it the Hebrew Schoolhouse, and supposedly that's haunted. It had like this basement too. Didn't really experience anything there. Then there was like a concentration camp where the laborers union,
Oof.
the city tends to not. It was like a bracero camp for a while, but they went during when they had like the Chinese when the war was going on, they would put them in there. You know what I mean? And then the braceros, when they would cross them over for the field work, they would leave them there in bad conditions. And that one probably was the gnarliest in terms of what it looked like, and also the fact that our city refused to like acknowledge that it existed. They ended up like bulldozing it, so I got to see it before, but I still didn't really experience any actual like I didn't see anything or any paranormal or anything, even though some people say they did. So like I am like I'm like I'm not afraid of it. I'm like almost like I almost want to like see that there's something. I know this sounds crazy. Some people don't want to see this, but I almost want to
Uh-huh.
see that there's something just so that I can feel like if there's something else and it's not here on Earth, it's not like a human, because not all ghosts are bad. That's another thing. You know what I mean? Like, they can't all be bad, like everyone puts it, right? Like,
I don't
just
know.
so that I know, like, yeah, there's like an afterlife or there's something else out there. So I can't really say I've like seen anything. I've like been around things and kind of felt maybe like that one time when I felt the chills behind that house, but I haven't like physically seen anything. And
Yeah.
I've purposely gone to a lot of these buildings. But then again, I don't know. I don't have like a PK meter or something. So like I don't have sounds freaking me out or whatever. I'm just relying on, do I see anything? Does anything move? And so far nothing on that end. Now the weird thing is you're talking about the UFOs and all that, you know what I mean? Now I did have an experience when I was a kid and I was with my brother and we were in the backyard and this from my memory for whatever forever dumb reason. I think we were eating ice cream or something, but I had a spoon, like a silver spoon in my hand.
Yeah.
And like I remember I was just like I was like licking the spoon because I had the ice cream and I walked out and my brother and I looked in the sky and there was like this silver like object in the sky, right? But it wasn't moving. And I put the spoon like in my face, like I aimed it and I covered the object and then I moved it, right? And it was still there. It's so weird that
Mm-hmm.
I'm using a spoon to do this. I don't know if there's some kind of connection with that and like it being metal or what. And then we were both looking at it, so I know it's there because he acknowledged that he's looking at it too. And then I put the spoon over it again. This is my visual, not to his. And then I moved the spoon again, and then the thing was like gone, dude. Like it like
Mm-hmm.
took off or something. And that always tripped me out. So like, and it wasn't that close to us, but I definitely freaking saw it. And I didn't really have an explanation for it. And like, I was like a kid, so when I would tell my parents or my cousins, they kind of thought it was like horse shit or something. But it's like, well, I don't know what it is. I'm not saying it's this or that, but it was gone. I saw it, and then it was gone. And it definitely
Weird
it was
thing is that
silver.
runs in families, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. That was a really weird experience. That's the only thing that I could say. Nothing else up close. But I mean, I'm not one to fear like those things. I actually kind of like the demonic stuff, I don't want anything to
Mm-hmm.
do with. But if someone says something is like haunted by the ghost of a something or whatever, like I'm not against going to check it out and like just to see is there really something or not. Because if there is, that's actually kind of exciting to know that there's something beyond the life, beyond this life. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really have like a fantastic story like that. I put myself in a lot of those positions to see something, but I've yet to see something like that. Other than the feeling I had at that Whaley house, which was very interesting as a kid. I'd like to actually go there as an adult now and maybe actually physically go into the building now that I'm not a kid and I'm gonna pay for a tour or something. But maybe I want to do the tour just by myself, just so someone's not trying to like overhype it though too at the same time. Yeah.
uh, why don't we step back and maybe think into this encounter you had, uh, and misplacing the name ghost into
Uh,
communication.
yeah.
What if you have always been drawn into this ghost, or excitement of feeling fear, because that's communication. Have you ever thought of that?
Maybe.
Also, maybe
I have not,
maybe
but
maybe it's not what you were sensing was not fear. Maybe you were actually communicating.
I never thought of it like that, but it's a possibility, because they say some people are vessels, right? Some
Yeah.
people are the ones that are meant to communicate or not have certain fear, right? Because if someone's afraid, then you're not going to be able to communicate with them because they're going to run away, right? But if someone's willing to hear out the situation, that's kind of someone you can communicate to, right? Even if it was a ghost or a alien or whatever, whatever paranormal activity it could be. So
I tell you
yeah, I
this
never thought of it.
because when I was young, I mean a kid, I was always telling my cousins, "Let's do a ritual. Let's do something on the graveyard." So we love to get spooked, but my cousins were always like thinking I was mad. Like, why do you want to do this? Let's buy a Ouija board. I was always thinking about spooky things. But since I've read this book from Diana Pasulka and others, I've come to think that maybe this thing of demonic or angelic or religious thing is just somewhat real. So
Hmm.
what if these creatures are not demons? They are just living things without a body. Evil, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe they do want to experience the physical world, so they occupy a physical body.
Yeah.
What if this type of possession, it's actually a process to occupy someone, and
Yeah.
they displace your mind, and they take place into your body. This type of signs that the church recognizes as possession, like knowing something from a lot of earlier time, predicting past and future, writing
Yeah.
we're writing in your skin, knowing things in advance, talking in languages. What if actually it's something like a new type of creature that has been here for a lot of time, and
Yeah.
embodies you, and actually knows a lot of things, and it does know past and future, because conscious maybe um, uh, is not in your brain, maybe something outside, and we are
Yeah.
just in the beginning of understanding what conscious is. Maybe conscious can be replaced, upload, download, moved. When we die, maybe it goes away or stays. We do not know those things. So I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
That
juice in there, right?
Yeah, that there is. That's like that's I never really thought of it that way. I mean that you make it sound like that's the real life boogeyman, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like that's the real like it's not ghosts, it's like this one entity that's been around here for ages, you know? Yeah, that sounds more terrifying than anything else because the
Yeah.
intentions could be evil. Just that's it, you know what I mean? Because like I always thought like if there are some ghosts like they're not all evil, right? There could be that the whole demonic thing that you said right now, like that's terrifying. But like a lot of ghosts, sometimes I think maybe they're just people who kind of got stuck, like in limbo, like in the cross between the two worlds. You know what I mean? And couldn't
Hmm.
cross over to the other side, and maybe they just need to communicate with you because they need your help somehow. You know?
Yeah.
And so that's another thing. Maybe you could be the assistance or the help. But once you got into all that, like the demonic territory, that's a whole nother ball game. You know what I mean? That's like even the ghosts are probably terrified of that thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's wild, man.
I've
I never
been
thought about like
I've been
perceptions.
I've been invited sometimes to play Ouija or that thing, and I've never done
Yeah.
it. Even though I love horror,
Hmm.
I've never done it because
Oh man.
I think
Yeah.
there is something to there. It's not random that a lot of ancient cultures have these representations of demons. If you go to Japan or India, they do have representations of jinn and demons, and they do have the other side, right? This
Yeah.
good and well behaved type of divinities. So maybe, yeah, maybe there is something. I don't know. There's tons of people telling stories about it. So
Yeah.
why don't we step into the weird phenomena side of things and think that, yeah, maybe perhaps there are some things that we do not understand what they are. Maybe some religions have formed their
Yeah.
text and their understanding in regards to this phenomena, and assign names and traditions and rituals to, for example, Jack Parsons. Do you know Jack Parsons?
I've heard of it, but I don't know the full. But yeah, if you want to kind of break it down partial, you know.
Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that when I talk about these things always bring the science
Hmm.
part of it, right? Like, no,
Hmm.
this is fiction and this is science.
Yeah.
Well, actually, for example, Jack Parsons was a disciple of Aleister Crowley, who was an
Yeah.
occultist,
Hmm.
and Jack Parsons was obsessed with demons and entities and rituals in the desert, and he was the one who was, by his words, uh, told how to build solid fuel for the rocket industry. They were the founders
Yeah.
of the aerospace
Aerospace. Yeah.
industry. So without his help, he ended up blowing himself with an experiment in his basement. But without this cryptic and occultist, we wouldn't have NASA and flying to space. So who's to say
Yeah.
those entities aren't guided ourselves to get out of this planet and using humanity as workforce to develop
Yeah.
spaceships and rockets
Yeah.
to get out of.
Very interesting connection there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There was this guy. I don't know his name, but he's a Nobel winner who
Hmm.
discovered the DNA form, the DNA diagram
Yeah.
of humans,
Yeah. Humans. Yeah.
and he got it from an LSD trip. He was on LSD when he saw the double helix model,
It's wild, huh?
and then he discovered it. He wouldn't like to say this into the world, but with years came into the public arena. So what if, for example, entheogens and mind altering drugs are just a way to enter into this new reality, like
Yeah.
DMT or those things,
Uh-huh.
and you actually see what you think you're hallucinating. What if it's real? What if you're
Yeah.
seeing into creatures and entities and
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. You're like, holy shit.
holy shit, what if it's real? And we have been
Yeah.
misinterpreting things. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's give a thought to things into two senses. No, I was telling you earlier that maybe runs into in families. For example,
Uh-huh.
my grandmother was Catholic, and she developed schizophrenia when she was older, and she was
Mm.
talking to the Virgin and talking to spiritual beings in the room, and we couldn't see them. So
Yeah.
when I thought about it, she was singing to them and talking to them, like a year before she died. What if it was real? What if
Yeah.
some mental illnesses have some truth to them? What if people are not that crazy that we think they are?
Yeah. That's a very good point. All right. So, ordinary questions with extraordinary individuals. What is your favorite color?
I'd go for gray.
Nice.
I know it's not a color, but gray tones are my thing.
What is your favorite artist or band of all time?
I, I'd go for Moebius. And in regards to bands, I really love to listen into weird things, weird music and sounds and things like you know, those YouTube things that things to make you sleep,
Oh
things
yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
things to make you focus
Yeah.
or put attention into things. So yeah, I'd go for 3 hours of that thing.
What is your favorite movie of all time?
Of all time, I'd go for Blade Runner for sure.
Nice. Harrison Ford. What is your favorite snack or dessert of all time?
Man, I'm so into gummy worms.
Nice.
Badly. Back 2 bags, 3 bags are not enough. I know I'm gonna get diabetes maybe sometime soon.
What is one place you have not traveled to yet that you still want to visit?
Oh, there are some Gothic places like Prague. Prague?
Uh-huh.
Do you say Prague?
Yeah. Prague?
Yeah, right. Prague with those castle thing buildings and it's like Gotham City for real.
What is your favorite franchise or nostalgic property of all time?
I'm gonna go with cheesy 90s B horror movies,
Nice.
like Critters and those type of monsters. Do you remember Critters?
Yeah, Critters. Yeah, I think it's the Chiodo brothers. Yeah, the ones that did Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I think it's those guys.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I love those tiny creatures. Thank you for listening to this episode of Passions Personified. This is, I think, the longest continuous running episode that we've recorded. So I actually got cut out right there at the end with ENID. And but I went ahead and still asked them that final question. If you could offer one last bit of advice to anyone out there trying to pursue their passions, what would it be? And ENID had a fantastic answer. He said, remember
to always draw with an invisible string tied between your pencil and your heart.